Okay, so we've all seen them, right? Personality quizzes, job satisfaction surveys, all these tools that claim they can measure who we are. But how do we actually know we can trust them? Today, we're jumping right in. We're on a quest for proof to figure out what really makes a research tool trustworthy. It really all comes down to this one simple question. When a tool says it can measure, your job satisfaction or how good you'll be at a new role, how do we know it isn't just, guessing? How do we prove it's actually measuring what it says it is? Well, the answer is a really powerful idea at the heart of all good research. It's called validity. Now, think of validity as the ultimate quality check. It's not just a one-and-done stamp of approval. No, it's a whole process of gathering evidence to prove that a test or a survey is legit, that it's built on proof, not just assumption.
To really get a handle on validity, we're going to look at two main paths researchers take. And the first one is all about being practical. It's the most direct, straightforward way to see if a tool has any real-world value.
So this first path has a formal name, criterion-related validity. But you know what? Let's forget the fancy name for a second. What it's really asking is one simple, powerful question. Does it work? It figures out how valuable a tool is by checking it against some kind of objective external result or criterion.
And the difference between these two practical tests? It's really just timing. On one side, you've got what we can call the now test, or concurrent validity. It checks if a tool can tell people apart right now. And on the other side, you've got the future test, or predictive validity, which is all about whether it can predict something that's going to happen down the road.
So how does this now test actually play out? Well, imagine you've just created a new, super quick checklist to measure job satisfaction for nurses. To prove it works, you give it to a bunch of nurses. But at the exact same time, you also give them a classic, old-school, gold standard satisfaction test. If the scores from your new, shiny checklist match up really closely with the scores from the trusted old one, bam, you've got proof. Your tool has concurrent validity.
Predictive validity. Now that's a different beast. It's like having a crystal ball. It's all about whether a measurement you take today can accurately tell you what's going to happen in the future. The classic example? Aptitude tests. Do high SAT scores actually mean you're going to get good grades in your first year of college? If they do, time and time again, then that test has rock-solid predictive validity. All right, let's head down our second path. And this is where things get a little trickier, but also way more interesting. What if you want to measure something abstract, something you can't see or touch, like a feeling or a personality trait? This leads us to the absolute core question of what's known as construct validity. It asks, what is this thing really measuring? I mean, when you can't just compare a score to some obvious external outcome, how on earth do you prove your tool is tapping into the specific abstract idea you're trying to get at? And we're talking about things that are just impossible to measure physically, right? You can't put a yardstick next to grief. You can't put generosity on a scale. Concepts like job satisfaction or a person's inner need for autonomy, they demand a much more sophisticated kind of proof. So one really clever way to get that proof is called the contrasted groups approach. And the logic behind it is actually pretty simple. You go out and you find two groups of people who are complete opposites on the thing you want to measure. One group you already know is super high on it, and another group you know is super low.
Let's use the powerful example of grief. Say you have a new tool to measure grief. You'd give it to a group of people who have recently lost someone. You'd expect them to score very high. Then you'd give that same tool to a group of people with no recent loss, and you'd expect them to score very low. If the scores from those two groups are, in fact, worlds apart, that's strong evidence that your tool is valid. It's actually measuring grief.
But if you want the highest level of proof, the gold standard, researchers turn to something with a bit of a mouthful of a name, the multi-trait multi-method matrix, or MTMM for short. It sounds really complicated, I know, but the idea behind it is incredibly elegant and powerful. It's the preferred method for a reason. The MTMM is basically built on two main pillars. The first one is called convergent validity. This is the idea that if you measure the exact same concept, let's say autonomy, but you use two totally different methods, like a survey and an observation, the results should converge. They should point to the same answer. It proves your measurement is stable.
The second pillar is discriminant validity, and this part is absolutely crucial. It's all about proving not only what your tool is measuring, but also what it is not measuring. So, can your tool for autonomy actually tell the difference between autonomy and some other similar idea, like sociability? It needs to be able to discriminate.
So here's how those two pillars give you that powerful proof. Imagine you measure autonomy with two different methods. At the same time, you also measure sociability with those same two methods. For your autonomy tool to be considered valid, two things have to happen. First, the two scores for autonomy need to be really similar. That's convergence. And second, those autonomy scores have to look very different from the sociability scores. That's discrimination. This whole process proves your tool is both accurate and specific.
So, after going through all of this, why does it matter? I mean, why go to all this trouble just to prove a tool works? Well, it's because these tools, they can have a huge impact on our lives.
You know, this quote really just nails the whole idea. Validity isn't some dry technical term just for researchers. It's a mission. It's a quest to make sure that the way we understand the world and each other is built on solid proof, not just on hunches or assumptions.
So here's the bottom line. Validity is what separates a real scientific instrument from some random quiz you find online. It's what builds trust in incredibly important fields like nursing and education and psychology. And maybe most importantly, it helps ensure that huge, life-altering decisions about someone's education or their career or their health are based on evidence we actually know is reliable.
So I'll leave you with this. The next time you come across a survey, a test, or one of those viral personality types, just pause and ask yourself, is this just a fun label, or is there real hard-won proof behind it? The quest for validity is what gives us the power to tell the difference. Thanks for joining me.